All right, let's do it. What's up, y'all? So, I wanted to go right to this, so that way it's a little bit easier to find. So, I put a video a couple of days ago, maybe last week, about me and Abriana and my wife and I's back and forths and all this stuff. And it was kind of, it was fun, but something came out of that night, right? When I talked about I went in the closet, I'm writing this stuff down and all that stuff. And it's an exercise that I've been using a lot, and it's really given me some perspective on how I can make some changes, not just in my life, but in the communities that I'm around. And so I wanted to kind of take that portion of it and do this real quick because it's a little exercise that I want people to be able to find instead of having to watch through the whole video and so forth. So what it is, so what happened that day, right? I was frustrated. So what I've started to do is get a piece of paper, very simple. And on one side, I write down, what I'm frustrated with, right? And so, and the reason in the video I mentioned, this is like, you can do this with anything, right? This could be, okay, I work at a job right now and I don't like the fact that, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't like the fact that nobody cleans up the kitchen at the job site. I don't know. Something like that, right? So I start writing this down, and I give myself a chance to just write it down. Write down what you don't like, right? Or, you know what? I don't like that, my employer doesn't pay me enough. They didn't give me I didn't get, watch this, I didn't get a raise last year and I didn't like that. So I write it down, right? Maybe you play sports and you're on a basketball team and you don't like that. You don't get playing time, right? Write it down. Or you don't like that practice. You feel like the team that you're on, the standards are low, and that practice starts late, and it frustrates. Oh, this is one for me. There's this thing out there called, if CP time, colored people time, like things always start late. So if you tell people to get there at 6 o'clock, they're not going to get there until 9 o'clock, right? 8 o'clock. I hate that. I don't like being aligned with CP time. Like, if you ever saw the thing way back where Kanye's like, well, if that's the culture, I ain't with the culture, like, I'm not with the late culture. That's not who I am. I'm somebody, I want to be early. I want to be on time. I want to practice excellence and diligence. And I would like people around me to do the same, but sometimes they don't. So let's just say that's a frustration thing, right? Let's just say, cool. So what I did was I went and I started writing down the frustrations that I have and so forth. And what I found when I was doing it was that this was a chance for me to get it out. This is a chance for me to like release, right? And that's what me and Bree on the video, we talked about. This would be like the release side, right? And what we were talking about, and it's like as we're doing it, by the way, we didn't like come up with this stuff before. We were just like talking, like the video that we recorded when we're on the bed. We're just talking about what. And what we came up with is like release, and then the other one is resolve. So what you find that typically women are better at than men, and this is what I'm learning. I've had a really hard time processing and dealing with this. Typically what women are better at than men is letting it out, right? Or releasing. This is why when people get married, the man feels like the woman is super critical of the man, right? And there's a lot of frustrations that come up with that, because the woman is, what she's doing, she's voicing what she's frustrated with, right? There's a lot of times, I'm trying to think, this is why women are sometimes attributed to like gossip, right? Because women get together and they start sharing the things that frustrate them and they get on their nerves and different stuff, right? But what I learned, and then we were talking about like, the reason why I'm re-recording this too, I came across something with John Gray where it talks about men are from Venus, women are from Mars, or whatever that thing is. And how it just, men and women are different. Men and women are different. And that's okay, right? Like you can be equal but different, right? And so what's different typically about women is more of like a, let's just say like a right brain, more emotional, so willing to kind of release. Even, I don't want to get too we'll go there real quick. So for men that have a woman or have a wife, and like when it's that time of the month, right, it just gets really emotional and all different stuff, that used to frustrate me. You know what I realize now? If you're telling me that a woman's emotional system regulates itself once a month, and that's a good thing. It's like, I know this sounds so crazy. Oh my gosh. It's like a car that gets a checkup, right? It's like if a woman doesn't have a checkup, that's a problem. It's tight. Then she's going to be just as cold as you are, bro. That's a problem, right? So anyways, that becomes what women are usually better at, okay? Where men struggle is men have a hard time. If you know, like, men have a hard time sharing things. Or I saw this video earlier where this guy was like, he tells his dad he loves him all the time, and his dad never says that he loves him back. Well, men have a harder time with that, right? And so that's on the frustrated side. So what I did was I wrote it down, I got it out. And I was like, okay. Once I was able to release I'm able to release what frustrates me, now I can come in here and look at like prevent. I put on here like prevent. What I mean by prevent is like, how can I prevent this, right? And so I put on here, I forget, but if I go back, I have a team and my team shows up late, whatever. Okay, what can I do to prevent it? Well, maybe I can't prevent it. I'm not the coach. Maybe I don't have the keys to the gym, whatever. But you know what I can do? I can show up early, and maybe I take a picture of me being there, and I'm like, hey, y'all, see you guys. I'm here soon. I'm already stretching outside or in the hallway or whatever, right? Something, right? Like I said, we talk about, the job didn't pay me well. Okay, enough. Okay, well, what can I do to prevent this? Well, I could have did more work. I could have been added more value in certain places. Maybe if I read different books on how to help the company, even if it's not what I get paid for, but I add more value, boom. And then the cool thing is, if you let's just say that's how I prevent it. Okay. All right, so after watching, I realized this is something I missed, which I think is really important. If you decide, hey, I'm going to, like, my way to prevent this is to create higher standards with the team, or, my job's not paying me, so I'm going to, add more value. And then that job says, I don't care how much value you add, you're not going to get paid more here. That's your sign to now leave and go find another job. And sometimes that leaving, when people find out down the road that they lost a good asset, that's what increases the standard. So regardless, the challenge is sometimes fear. We don't want to leave that job or that situation, whatever. I don't want to leave it because I'm afraid if I leave it, then I'm going to miss out on what that job had to offer. I see so many people don't leave their jobs because they're afraid of losing the income. But if you were to leave that job, go find a better income, you would actually help everyone. You would want to help the job because they would realize they missed out and they would have to improve. You would also help yourself find a better position. And then the next company that hires you, you help them as well. You help all parties, but you have to let go of fear in order for something like that to take place, right? So I thought that was really important to add. Back to the video. So here's the thing. When I allow myself, and this is really good for men, if you allow yourself to release, right, and just share what frustrations you may have, you will start to naturally come up with solutions. Right? They say the biggest inventions in the world were when there's something that you don't like and you're trying to change it, right? Like, what's something that just gets on your nerves, right? Well, if I'm, as a man, if I'm not ever allowed to complain or just like, man, this gets on my nerves, I just never do that, right? Ideas won't come up either, right? And that's why women are so important, because a lot of creative ideas come up from men's desire to resolve things for women, okay? So just keeping all this in mind, right? So that's what happened. And then I went and I wrote down different ways I can prevent them, right? And here's the thing. This is where accountability comes in, right? So I think like what men are really good at is solving problems, right? So like resolving. What men are really good at is like solving problems. This is why a lot of times women look at men and say, man, they don't even want to listen to what I have to say. They're just always trying to solve something. Like, I didn't ask you to solve a problem for me. Like, I want to just tell you what's going on. And can you just listen? Can you just be there and just listen and be there? And men don't understand that. Like, well, why would you even talk about something if you don't want me to help fix it? And what men don't understand is women just want to be able to feel like there's a safe space where they can just breathe and share what's on their mind without you trying to fix everything. And this has been one of the biggest challenges that I had is well, at the time she was my girlfriend, but now my wife, she would bring stuff up and I'd just be like, yo, well, all we have to do is this and we wouldn't have a problem, right? Or let's just do this and we can solve it. And she's like, no, she said it. If you watch the video, she said it in the end. She's like, yeah, I was just trying to let things out and you just wouldn't hear it, right? And so instead, as men, our job is to be there and be able to listen, right? And be able to just be there, just be a safe space to listen. And then what we can start working on the back end is, okay, well, how do we solve this, right? And maybe, when we listen, now we can ask questions and say, okay, so now how could we, how could now that the releasing is done, boom, maybe we come back and revisit this with solutions, right? I mentioned in that video, but this becomes a really big problem with like politics and all different stuff, is that these are two sides of just like conversations that are happening where like if you have two people in a room, one person is talking about all the problems happening in the country and the other person is talking about how we solve the problems, how we actually like what to do, the actions to do to solve it, they can butt heads because this person's like, stop complaining, we could just fix it. What do we got to do to fix it? And the other person is like, the other person is like, yeah, but you're not willing to listen. Like, you have to listen. You're not willing to hear out the problems and what's going on. So this person will actually never have quality solutions because they're not willing to listen to the real problems and empathize with the real problems and put themselves in their shoes and say, okay, let me hear what's going on. What are the problems, right? What's going on? Okay, how did this make you feel? And like actually feel that. That's where empathy comes in. And that's where understanding happens, right? We have a lot of people that are trying to be right, but they're not trying to understand the other side or parties or whatever. So whether it's men and women, whether it's political parties, whether it's races, right? People who are Latino versus black versus white and so forth. We just have to understand that in order to really make a massive change, we first have to be willing to listen, right? We have to be willing to listen, to empathize with the problems that are happening, because we can't ignore what can happen. And I fell into this trap. What can happen when we're on the resolution side is we just say, hey, let's just solve problems. Forget it. These problems don't exist. We're problem solvers. We're problem solvers. That doesn't affect us. That doesn't affect us. And it's almost, or like the personal development world where you start affirming, hey, I am this. And I'm affirm all these affirmations, right? Like that doesn't, I don't know. Poverty's happening, and then I'm like, I'm rich, I'm wealthy, I'm rich, I'm wealthy, I'm rich, I'm wealthy. And it's like we ignore that poverty's happening. Well, that doesn't affect me because what? Because I want to grow, I want to increase my consciousness, my capacity. But the way that we do that and help others around us do it is that we have to become aware that there are problems happening, but not consumed by the problem. Almost like aware that the problem is happening and aware of our power to solve that problem, and or aware of how powerful we are. That just because the problem's happening doesn't mean that it has to bring me down, right? So instead, if there's a problem happening, I can be one of the people who can help bring the problem or help resolve the problem. But watch this, I can't resolve a problem that I pretend doesn't exist. And I believe that's a really big challenge that we face as a country here in the United States of America, is that the problem solvers have to admit that there are problems, and then the people who see the problems have to be willing to act out and do what it takes to solve them, right? So I think this is good. 11 minutes, relatively short, but start doing that. Start doing that in different things that are going on in your life. I really don't believe that people live lives of true fulfillment unless they're solving problems anyway, right? Like one of the things a lot of us want, we want freedom. I want to live a life of freedom and so forth. What I've learned is the freest people in America are the ones that are solving the most problems, right? Because when you're solving problems, that's when you get resources to go live a free life, right? And so I think if a lot of us are searching for happiness, I think we should be searching for fulfillment, because in order to be fulfilled, you can be happy but unfulfilled, right? Just like, oh, I'm happy. They say, I'll put it on there. They say happiness is fleeting. It's like it's temporary. Fulfillment comes from like a deeper joy, because like when you're out traveling the world, you're happy. You have kids and you see your kids win and grow. You're fulfilled. You like the tears of joy that fill. And I don't have kids, but I have people that I do my best to try to help, and and I have a niece and nephew. When I see them, I feel different than just like me, right? And so how do we become fulfilled? And you can be fulfilled and happy, right? And free, but it comes from taking on more responsibility and saying, hey, I'm gonna solve problems for people, right? I'm gonna help this person. This is why people go on missions trips and they go to other countries. When I lived in Brazil and I'm seeing these people, I'm like, man, solving problems for people makes me feel good about life, right? Because we were born to contribute to something bigger than ourselves, right? And so I'm done. I'm fine. I'm done. I hope this brings some value, and yeah, that's it. Peace.